Welcome to the Hindu's videos and podcasts. We're speaking in the sidelines of the huddle, and I have with me Yogendra Yadav, and we're going to talk about the 2019 elections. And before he makes the disclaimer himself, I will do this. He is in politics, he has a political point of view, but we're going to pick what I regard as a tremendous psephological brain. We've worked together closely on elections before when his organization and the Hindu have collaborated in publishing
that
material.
Was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, it was wonderful for me too.
Previous birth, but for me, previous birth.
Yeah. So we're going to ask you to set your political hat aside for a moment and tell us what you think may happen in 2019. And so I'm going to come straight up and ask the question most bluntly. Is Modi going to lose the election?
The blunt answer to the blunt question is yes, he would, depending on what you call losing. The broad sense is that if he gets less than 200 seats on his own, if the BJP's tally is less than 200, then it's very unlikely that BJP would be able to form a government. If that is losing, then my answer is straight yes. I don't see BJP getting 200 on its own. The more model score that I'm looking at is something like 170, though it's very early to get into specific numbers. And there is an outside chance that it may fall even to 150. That's the broad sense I have as of now, which has nothing to do with my dislike of Mr. Modi and my opposition. As you know, in 2002, I wrote 2 articles, one saying he should lose in Gujarat, another saying he is winning. He's winning big way. These 2 things should be kept separate.
Absolutely, yeah. So the opinion polls, that we've had over the last few months suggest a figure for the NDA of something between 230 odd to 250 odd. 3 prominent television channels have conducted them. Is that enough to form a government? I mean, we have, we don't know which way some parties will go. The Naveen Patnaik in Orissa, what happens in Telangana and so on. So
if NDA does manage to get 230 or so, which is to say if BJP on its own gets 200,
190 or so,
BJP needs 200 because they don't really have significant allies anymore.
Okay.
It's only Shiv Sena with about 10-12 seats and JDU with 10-12 seats. Akalis wouldn't get many seats in any case.
Okay.
So BJP needs about 200, and if allies bring another 30, then there is an outside chance of BJP forming the government, because then you have YSR Reddy parties,
yeah.
then you have from Telangana, you have TRS, and possibly BJD from Orissa as well. That's a possibility. But the reason why I wouldn't take these numbers as very robust number is because it's still 2-3 months to go. But more than that, I think there is a bias built into such surveys, and I'm not speaking of political bias. I think these are credible organizations. These are sensible, serious surveys. The bias is this: all pollsters want to play it safe, and playing it safe, and this is not political safe. Pollsters don't want to be massively wrong. They like to be slightly wrong. And when they play it safe, it means that the party which is going to lose big way somewhere, they say, okay, itna to nahi, 15 seat to nahi harenge, they'll lose probably 5 seats. And in this instance, it so happens that one region, North India, Hindi belt, which is where BJP had about 200 seats, and where it faces a massive cut, that's where pollsters are likely to understate BJP's losses, and all the mistakes would be stacked in one direction. So my own sense is, not only now, right till the exit poll, whatever the polls tell you, BJP will probably get 25-30 seats less than that. And that's my sense, that as elections progress, like right now, one of the polls has said that BJP could fall below 200. India Today says that. BJP on its own. And that, I think, opens the possibility. So closer to the election, I really simply don't see how BJP can touch 200.
So even psychologically then, this bias, which you say is not a real bias, but it just comes about because of what pollsters prefer to do, is is at odds with what has been happening all along, because what's been happening all along, more or less, is it's the BJP's numbers that have been underestimated. They were underestimated in 2014, they were grossly underestimated in the 2017 UP election, and elsewhere as well, other elections as well. So 2019 is unique in this respect, because simply because of how well the BJP did in the Hindi heartland.
Actually, what you're saying is not inconsistent with what I was saying.
Yeah.
It is not pro or anti-BJP bias.
Yeah.
It's
how much you scale down.
It's an attempt to play safe.
Right.
BJP is winning big in UP. My poll says that they might get 250 seats. I'll say 210 to be on the safer side.
Right.
So it's the one who's winning big or losing big that tends to be understated. You know, Samajwadi Party was losing big way, but I would, to be on the safer side, play it up.
Yeah.
So in this election that would work against the BJP.
So, I mean, this scenario that they will slip in what we loosely call the Hindi heartland, simply because they did extraordinarily well there in 2014, is a reasonable assumption to make. Where are the states which could offset this tally? Let's take Orissa, for instance. Let's take West Bengal, which tends to vote massively in favor of one combined. I don't know if that will happen, but I don't know how much of a dent you think the BJP can, which has emerged as the number 2 party now, can make in Mamta's fortress. And the third thing is what happens in the Northeast, where this entire amendment bill seems to have changed the political situation completely.
From 2014, there was only one region where BJP could go up. That's the East. Orissa, Bengal, Northeast.
Correct.
Orissa, BJP can make big gains, almost 10 seats, which would be a very big gain for BJP. BJP is in serious reckoning to be in power in Orissa. That's the ground sense that you get also from surveys. In Bengal, again, BJP is gaining big way, but BJP is nowhere close to converting those gains into seats, because it's way below Mamata. Mamata is hovering, is around 35-40%. And BJP was around 15-20%. So you need to be 30% plus to be able to.
So
convert.
how much would you get them? Some people say 3, some people say more.
Yeah, so give 5, 7, whatever. At the moment, guessing exact seats, but they're not winning 20 seats in Bengal.
Right.
So let's say in Bengal and Odisha, BJP would gain about 15 seats or so. BJP was in a position to make small gains in Northeast as well, about 5 seats. But because of the Citizenship Amendment Bill, people in the rest of the country don't get to read what's happening in the Northeast right now. People are up in arms. Protests everywhere, street protests, all BJP's allies breaking away from BJP. And not just in Assam, all over the Northeast. So instead of gaining 5, BJP might end up actually losing 5 seats in the Northeast. So let's say BJP has a gain of something around 15 seats from the East. To my mind, all those gains would be wiped out in the West and the South. Gujarat, Maharashtra, and Karnataka. I do assume that Mr. Modi will do better than his assembly election performance in Gujarat. So he's not losing 10 seats.
That
he
was
would lose
5, yeah.
about 5. Say about 5 in Maharashtra once again, because opinion polls don't indicate a massive wave against the government right now. And in Karnataka, this forced and very uncomfortable marriage has mechanical effects. So that will also force BJP to shed another 5-7 seats. So to very crudely speaking, whatever BJP gains in the East would be wiped out in the West and the South. That leaves us with the Hindi belt. And that's why the focus on Hindi belt.
So I think, I'm doing the math roughly for you, but what you seem to suggest is a loss of something between 80 to 100 seats.
About 100 seat in the Hindi belt. People forget that there are 226 seats in the Hindi belt. You leave out Punjab and Jammu Kashmir, so about 226 seats you have. In this, BJP actually won 191 on their own, plus 11 with their allies, 202 seats. So they can only go down, depending on how much they lose where. That's the only question.
So I'm asking the political question. If this prediction comes right, and the BJP is not in a position to form a government, this leaves either the Congress to head it or somebody from the third front, which is then supported by the Congress. Which of these you think, and this is a political question, not a psychological one, is the more preferable for the country?
It's a very hard thing to think about. BJP must go, and I speak simply the way I would have said in 1977, Mrs. Gandhi must go, just to save democracy in the country. If in 77 it was the future of democracy at stake, in 2019 it's the future of India at stake. India as a secular republic, that's at stake. So Mr. Modi must go. I do fear, however, that if opposition manages to somehow cobble together some kind of a coalition which just manages to push Mr. Modi out for some time, without a positivity, without a hope, without a plan of action, then very soon it will degenerate into a chaos.
Yeah. Somebody was telling me the other day, I mean, somebody with a political point of view, that the worst scenario would be if Mr. Modi loses and you have a sort of a Khichdi government coming to power, because if that implodes, then the BJP might just come back to power with a thumping majority all over
So
again.
in a sense, one has to play between two very bad scenarios.
So the suggestion was that the best thing that could happen was actually a weakened BJP government with a large coalition.
I don't agree with that at all. I mean, there's a lot of speculations about that. I don't see Mr. Modi's grip over the BJP being loosened. Even if he were to lose this election, I think RSS would still invest in him, because 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line, he's still their best bet. Second, any continuity of this regime, even for 2 more years, could be very serious disaster for our republic. You know, they're trying to amend the citizenship bill on the basis of Hindu-Muslim identity. I mean, what can be worse? I mean, you know, 10 years ago, if someone told you this was about to happen in Indian Parliament, you would have laughed it off. You know, we can't go that crazy. But this is happening in this country. So to my mind, any continuity of this regime is a very serious threat to the very idea of India. But your friend, whoever mentioned that to you, was absolutely right in saying that the other possibility of this regime, the new Khichdi government for 2 or 3 years, and then BJP possibly with Mr. Modi or someone else bouncing back, that is another nightmare. So there are 2 kinds of nightmare that we are dealing with. And this is the moment to invest in some positivity. This is the moment to come out with an alternative, at least to begin by stating some issues. And this is the role for the citizen, and that's my politics.
There is another point of view. I mean, this is going forward, but we are looking at it some distance away. We have voted as a country in states, in elections, on a variety of issues. But come 2019, and I think this is what the BJP hopes will happen, that the mind, simply because of the proximity to casting your ballot or punching that button, will crystallize around one single issue. Do we want stability and continuance of some sort, or are we going to vote for, instability and probably a sort of messy situation? The BJP would like to think that that would happen, and that's why it's harping on, this election as being presidential, not necessarily a parliamentary kind of election. But in your view, is that something that is possible? Would the mind crystallize around that one issue closer to polling day than now?
As you rightly said, that's how BJP would like to play it out. Sure. I think it's less likely for the following reasons. Because Mr. Modi's, that absolute charm, that spell has broken, especially after the experience with demonetization, not in the initial period, but now. 2, because regional politics is back to the fore, which is what had dominated from 1991 onwards. And number 3, because economic issues, especially issues of agrarian distress and that of unemployment, they are beginning to hurt like hell. And that, to my mind, would dominate. And the one big thing about this election is that this may be the first election in the history of India where rural distress and real issues to do with unemployment, etc., are the central issues.
Are you basing this on the result of the Gujarat election, or because in Madhya Pradesh and elsewhere it showed that Rajasthan showed that urban areas swung as much away from the BJP as the rural ones?
I think there
was no data to suggest that there was particularly rural anger.
No, there is enough data to suggest that there was rural anger. What we do not
Yeah,
have is an evidence to say that was the
that
decisive thing.
rural Rajasthan voted differently from urban
That's
Rajasthan.
right, yeah. I think because Mr. Modi, whatever I might think of him, he's a reasonably clever person. And if he's doing what he's doing for the farmers for the last 1 month, he must have had some feedback that something has indeed
I think
gone
Gujarat
wrong.
was feedback, because that was the story of two elections.
After Gujarat as well, you see, basically the government's own data tells them, which is why they are unwilling to come out with the simple figures of suicide, figures of how much farmers' income has increased ever since they announced doubling of farmers' income, figures of what was the average price for which crops were sold in the last 6 months. They know the news is very bad. So yes, there is anger. In Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, we did not see sufficient articulation because of Congress. Given the kind of a party Congress is not seen to be a natural carrier of that anger. But there is anger, there is unrest, and BJP is scared.
So Yogen, an economic question. I mean, how would you counter the sort of argument that is sometimes made by, proponents of the government that, look, we are the fastest growing economy in the world, fast growing major economy in the world, and there is considerable activity happening in the informal sector, and we're just blowing these issues beyond proportion and giving them much too much importance, and things are not as bad as they seem.
I'm likely to blow it up because I'm in opposition, but the 3 opinion polls that you referred to, all the 3 opinion polls say the biggest anxiety is unemployment. Now, Mehngai being the biggest anxiety is no news because that's a default option. But unemployment being named as an anxiety, that's real. 2, look at the number of protests. All these Maratha agitation, Jat agitation, what are these? These are agitations about unemployment. So there is it seems that these people have never heard of the term jobless growth. That is something which was acknowledged by the Prime Minister of this country, who happened to be an economist. So I think we have moved from jobless growth to a job loss growth, which is what's really happening. So yes, there is growth. Yes, India has been growing since the 90s. But the relationship between growth and growth in job is completely broken. And it started with UPA, not only in NDA. It started, the best phase of UPA, where we had 9% growth. We had less than 1% employment growth at that time. That's what's happening. So why are they surprised? BJP wants to invent a new economics for itself. These are simple facts, and something needs to be done. And it's too late for them to do something now.
All right. On that note, thank you very much, Yogen. Pleasure speaking to you as always.